Well, here we are again. Every year we do this once again. We gather on Christmas Eve. We tell the Christmas story. We do it every year, and you know, no matter how much we try to change it, no matter how many variations we try to put into it, the Christmas Eve service remains pretty much the same every year. Always seems to come down to singing the Christmas songs and reading the Christmas story out of the Bible. Just kind of the way it is. And you know, that's okay. In fact, I think it's a good thing. Because after all, the Christmas story is one of the most popular stories of all time. Probably the most popular story in the Bible. And when you think about it, it's pretty easy to see why. Because it's got everything, you know. It's got love. It's got adventure. It's got family. It's got good guys and bad guys. It has kings. It has commoners. Even has angels. And of course, it has a baby. A baby who was and is the Son of God. Did you ever wonder why God had the story go exactly this way? I mean, you read lots of stuff about certain aspects of it. You read about why it was important for the Son to come to earth. You read why it was important that it be a virgin birth. You read a lot about why it was important that he be born to Mary and Joseph to fulfill the Old Testament prophecies about the Messiah being a descendant of King David. But I don't know that I've ever read anything about why God would have had the divine Son come to earth in precisely this way. Why would God have the divine Son born to two ordinary people, two people who were an awfully long way from home, could find no place to stay, so that the divine Son of God wound up being born in a barn? No one around but a bunch of animals. You know, I sometimes think that we've heard the Christmas story so many times that we kind of start to take it for granted. But you know, God could have done this in a whole lot of other ways. God could have had Jesus come to earth with a lot of advanced publicity. God could have had angels appearing everywhere on earth, blowing trumpets, announcing, "Here's the divine Son of God." Or God could have had Jesus be born to a powerful family. Lots of influence, lots of wealth, lots of privilege. That's how a lot of people really expected the Messiah to come, to a family like that. Or God could have had Jesus be born with a whole crowd around so that the story would be spread far and wide instantly. Or God could have had Jesus be born anonymously so that there'd be no record of his birth whatsoever. In fact, God could have done it so that Jesus was not actually born at all. Jesus could have simply appeared fully formed as an adult, ready to begin his ministry immediately, hit the ground running. God had all kinds of choices for how the divine Son would come to earth. Why would God choose this particular way? Because it seems like there has to be a reason, maybe a lot of reasons. I don't think that God does anything at random, and I certainly don't think that the details of something as important as the divine Son of God coming to earth would have been left to chance. What would those reasons be? Why would God have Jesus be born in such an unusual and dramatic way like this? Well, I'm not about to tell you that I can understand the mind of God, but it seems to me maybe one of the reasons why God chose to do it this way would be that God wanted the Savior coming to earth to be a very memorable story. God wanted the story of Jesus' birth to be told over and over again. God wanted it to be a compelling story, one that people would always remember. Because I think that one of the things God wanted us to know is that Jesus was both fully divine and fully human. If the story of Jesus' birth was not known, or if Jesus had simply come to earth fully formed, in other words, if all we knew about Jesus was his teaching, his miracles, and his rising from the dead, it would be really easy, I think, for the human side of Jesus to be lost. It'd be easy for us to see Jesus as only this powerful divine figure. And of course, Jesus is that. But if we only saw Jesus that way, then we would know that Jesus was great and important, but that's all we'd know. We would not know that Jesus knows exactly what it's like to be human. We would not know that Jesus knows exactly what we go through on this earth because he went through it himself. Even Jesus' resurrection would be suspect if we did not know of his birth. We could not say that Jesus had really died the way human beings die because we would not know that he was born the way human beings are born. He would not have had the kind of life that a human being has, at least as far as we knew. It's only because Jesus was physically born and because we know the story of how Jesus was physically born. He was born in the same way that all humans are born. It's only because we know that we can say unequivocally that Jesus really was fully human as well as fully divine. And it's only because we know of Jesus' humanity that we can know Jesus understands how we feel, how we think, how we are. It's only because we know of Jesus' humanity that we can truly say Jesus died so that our sins would be forgiven. You know, it used to be that the story of Jesus' birth was the only Christmas story there was. Now, these days, we have lots of Christmas stories. We have Rudolph and Frosty. We have the Grinch. We have any number of stories about Santa Claus. We have all those Christmas-themed movies on the Hallmark Channel that Wanda loves to watch all the time. We have all sorts of Christmas TV specials and all sorts of other stories that talk about Christmas. There's nothing inherently wrong or bad with any of that. It's just that because there are so many other Christmas stories, the real Christmas story, the story of Jesus' birth, could very easily have been crowded out and lost. If that had happened, the fact of Jesus' humanity might also have been crowded out and lost. By having Jesus be born in this unusual and dramatic way, God saw to it that the story of Jesus' birth, the real story of Christmas, will never be crowded out. The story of Jesus' birth is so compelling that no matter how many other stories are told about Christmas, that first Christmas story, the real Christmas story, is never going to be forgotten. It's existed for 2,000 years. Some of us have heard it more times than we can count, and yet we still tell it, we still listen to it, we still read it all over again every year, and we look forward to hearing it and reading it and telling it every year. The story of Jesus' birth is a constant reminder to us that not only did Jesus live as one of us, Jesus was one of us. Jesus lived and Jesus died. And then Jesus was resurrected through the great glory of God, and because of that we know that our sins are forgiven. And God wanted to make sure that we knew that. God wanted to make sure that we remembered it. And that's one of the reasons, I think, that the Christmas story happened the way it did. Because of the way Jesus was born. The Christmas story will be told every year. It'll never get old. We'll never get tired of it. It'll never go away. It'll be told every year in churches all over the world until the day when an even greater story comes along. That's the story of when Jesus comes again. Amen. If our ushers would come forward, we'll take up our offering at this time.